I'm going live, and you're on mute.
I'm all set. Here we go. All right, everybody. Good morning. Josh Biokla here, coming to you from Chicago with our Gen AI news briefing. Bunch of interesting stuff happening, everything from cyber attacks to new kinds of model tuning. And I'll turn it over to Dave DeLallo, who's going to lead us across these articles this morning.
All right. I will be the judge and jury today on what is essential, important, or optional. Let's go ahead and get started on Kaj with the first article.
Okay, thanks, David. So the first one that we have for today is from OpenAI. So OpenAI has introduced some improvements to the fine-tuning API, and it is also expanding its custom models program.
Yes, Adam, thoughts?
Yeah, it's good news, I guess, if you're using the API. I read into some of the detail there, and for the most part, it seemed like incremental changes. Nothing really innovative or earth-shattering. If you were using this already, your developers might want to note that things are going to be a little easier for them. But for the most part, I think this is kind of optional as a sort of an incremental upgrade in the features.
Yeah, they did sneak in a couple of customer mentions in there, which I mean, we knew Harvey was leveraging OpenAI's products, but I did not know if Telecom or Indeed were using them. So that was an interesting little piece of information in there. Anybody else feel differently about this one as optional or have anything they want to say?
No, I just thought it was nice. Nice set of case studies, as you say, but optional.
Yeah, optional for me, but I found interesting that they now put the custom model development to the front. So it's very much core of this announcement that we will be providing that type of service, and this is formal now. So I think that's important to note.
All right.
Yeah, certainly the verticalization is going to continue.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. We will note that in our newsletter, which folks can sign up for. There's a little link that you can follow that's in all of the invitations to this live show, and perhaps.
And I'm putting it in the comments now for.
Drop it in the comments as well. Okay, on to the next.
Okay. So the next one is from Cohere. So earlier in this year, they introduced a Command R model. Now they have introduced this Command R Plus, and they're saying that it has advanced RAG capabilities. It provides coverage in 10 key languages used in global business operations, and it can be used to automate sophisticated business processes.
Yes, it feels like it was only a few weeks ago that we were reviewing the article about Command R, and now Command R Plus is out. Amanda, did they impress you with this?
So, no, David, they didn't. And I think Ankush pretty much in that high-level overview touched on what I would say to take away from it. So one thing they said is pretty decent-sized token window, 128K, focusing on reducing hallucinations, which pretty much most companies right now, I mean, that's the target, right, is to reduce that. Look at what these models are referencing, right, as far as the data pulling in. Again, the 10 key languages thing could be interesting, that it's looking at other languages, but quite honestly, this is a marketing piece. The only other thing is it also mentioned in there that they're focusing on data privacy and security, so anytime that's thrown in there could be interesting, but yeah, I'm totally optional on this one.
Yeah, Ankush mentioned that it's already up on Azure, by the way, if anybody wants to tap into it and give it a try. Any other thoughts on the panel?
Yeah, I thought the most important thing was the price. That it's a pretty substantial price discount. Somewhere between 50% and 70%. And a lot of these things are a lot of these applications are expensive. They're so compute intensive. So I put it to important just as a price thing to negotiate. With whomever you're negotiating with.
On the flip side, John, though, it's also between 6 and 10 times as expensive as Command R, right? They're now introducing Command R Plus, and they're almost 10xing the cost to use it. So it better be quite a bit good. If you scroll down a little further in the article, you'll see the pricing model they have. No, it's actually just a text table, a little like down near the bottom, where it shows the pricing for Command R and Command R Plus. Yeah, but anyway, so. I thought it was optional. A lot of the main things you're talking about, Amanda, in terms of the different languages they're going after and the security side, that was all highlighted in Command R as well. So this seemed like it's sort of like the GPT-4 to their 3.5, right? I think, John, you make a good point. Like when you look at some of the comparisons there to GPT-4 Turbo. And then you look at how much significantly lower cost it is. It could be considered important for that reason. If people are leveraging GPT-4 specifically for those purposes, they could realize some significant cost savings with this higher performing model.
Yeah, I assume that when they're saying this is a scalable LLM in the title of this release, that they are referring to because of the price. Right? Like otherwise, I was kind of confused as to what that means versus any other model. Am I correct there?
I don't know. I think it's just the LLM that has all the features, APIs at this level of performance at this price. So that's what they're saying, I think.
All right. I'm going to go with important on this one. We did have a couple votes for that just because it's another option. It's another price point. And it just is an indication that I think, the price wars are kind of continuing on, and we'll see where they go. And it still seems a little pricey, but perhaps better than, as you mentioned, some others, if you're using it for these use cases. I will say this whole benchmark mess to me is just getting annoying, right? Like some of the benchmarks that they have on here, I'm kind of like, okay, these are new ones. Where did these come from? We'll have another article around benchmarks and the financial services sector, I think, agreeing with me and trying to put some benchmarks in place so that they can understand what the heck the difference is among the performance of these models. But we'll go with important. What's next?
Okay. So the next one is around a model titled JETO, which is a mixture of experts model, and they have reached Lama 2 performance level with $100,000.
Yeah, our friends at MIT part of this. What did you think, John?
Yeah, I think, God love academia, one of my pet peeves is when people say, let's not make this an academic exercise, to which I say, you mean an academic exercise like the discovery of the human genome or the creation of the internet or, the science behind the atomic bomb, that kind of academic exercise. Anyway, here we are, right? I think you've got a model training for 80 grand, compared to billions. I just think that's, I think I put this as important because the idea, or maybe even essential, that your team might have a whole order of magnitude difference in cost base. So if you're the AI leader and you're figuring, okay, here's my 3-year plan or even 18-month plan, this has lots of implications. I better make sure I'm not locked into a model. I better make sure I've got deep tentacles into some of the research labs so I understand where this is going. I better be a customer of GAI Insights so I can keep up on all this stuff. These are all important things.
Yeah, they shared at the very bottom in the footnote what they used for compute for this, and it was a cluster of 96 H100s for 2 weeks, and obviously that took up most of the cost. They said it was $800,000.
Oh, I thought it was 80,000. It was 0.08. I thought million.
I thought it was 80.
Yeah, it's right there under the key messages, 0.08 million. So yeah, less than 100 grand.
80,000.
Yep, that's pretty cheap, man. So I say important, and keep going on those academic exercises.
All right, what do others think?
I think it's optional for our leader, but I think it is, I agree with John, it's important that there is a tool for the academia where a lot of stuff is coming from. So there's it was prohibitive to the a lot of institutes to play with it. Now it is not. So we will see more new things coming out, and that's important from that perspective, but not for our audience per se, I think.
I guess the only vote I was leaning towards optional, but John might be convincing me a little bit. And I'm thinking about the example we saw, like Saudi Aramco, right, that trained their own model. And whether a lot of AI leaders might be thinking, well, that's great, but they have billions of dollars, right?
Right.
And so this is just going to make it seem a lot more feasible to put training your own models into a roadmap when you start looking at the fact that you can literally just rent H100s for 2 weeks and get one of these things built for under 100 grand. That might be something worth noting as you're looking at the year ahead or the next 2 years and what you're doing in terms of your own plans.
Yeah, I mean, look, any of this stuff, this is what I love and hate about this thing. And by the way, David, I get you on the, on the, hey, benchmarks or pain in the neck, I'm getting sick of this. Well, fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because it's only going to get worse, right? Same thing with this. What are the economics of these things? Now I'm sitting there, I'm a business unit leader. I can say, okay, I can take a flyer on a couple $100 grand, build a whole new model. Maybe I have a competitive advantage. I've got some proprietary access to data. I don't know. I'm a division of John Deere, right? And I want to all of a sudden create my own large language model for the combine, right? Combines cost they started about $300-400 grand a piece. They're about half of that to manufacture. So for the price of a combine, I might have a whole knowledge base.
Yeah, and John, you're right. You don't necessarily might not put your own resources on it. You might partner with the university at this price, right? So you can pay a couple of $100 grand. So okay, important. You convinced me.
All right, can I get up to essential? I'm making a case. I'm climbing the tree.
We don't even know how the thing really performs, right? And it's it's Llama 2 level, not like Claude or GPT-4 level. So.
80 grand.
It's 7B, not 70B, right?
Yeah, it's a small one. I mean, let's see who would even use this. I honestly, I haven't even really seen a ton of use cases of Llama 2. I don't see anybody bragging about their use of Llama 2 in an application, right? Yes. I mean, have we reviewed anybody that's using it in a significant?
I can't remember what, but yeah. Anyway,
great.
Okay, important it is.
We're reining you in a little bit here, John. We're going to go with important on this one.
Hey, man, I have sympathy for the business unit leader that can go buy stuff,
All right, on to the next one.
Okay, so the next one is from S&P Global, and they have launched some AI benchmarks for financial industry.
All right, yes, this was the article I was mentioning earlier. John, we got you again on this one.
I love opining. All right, this thing, I would say optional. I think it's interesting that, S&P makes sense that, they would go into something like this, given their role in the industry as, a provider of credit data and so forth. I don't think it's that important. I think it's, but an area to watch. And my guess is that because I think knowledge is incredibly, context specific. Obviously, it's a combination of general and context specific, but there's so many knowledge bases like this one, how do we analyze financial statements and look at companies, that's relatively what the sociologists call impacted, right? The knowledge is specific. I would imagine over time, we'll have more and more of these. It'll be like, okay, I don't want to hear from Microsoft or from, Hugging Face how well this model does. I want to hear from S&P because it's in the domain. And what I was thinking is my old friends at PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, should they go into the, benchmark business? It's a really interesting question and one that they wrestle with a lot, given their brand and role in society, whether the Big Four should do that. But I give it an optional, but an important area to watch. Fascinating domain because knowledge is so contextual in most cases.
Yeah, I mean, given what I said earlier, I was going to go with important on this one. And actually, because of everything that you just said, John, somebody's got
to going essential for that reason.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll say my little piece here, and then we're going to go to Luda.
All right. I'll trade you an essential on the other one for important here. No.
takes a lot to excite Luda, so I want to hear what she has to say.
This is true.
To all of your points, John, like someone's got to jump in here and help the actual, business user understand the performance differences between these models. And if it's going to go down a road of industry specific, great, that's even better than if it's going to be a generic set of benchmarks. But these, and I hear you about academic. I'm a lover of academia, but these are still very academic benchmarks that they're using. Or scientific. You could even go to that, like nobody gets or necessarily cares about, and doesn't really exemplify how it's going to work in the real world. So I love that S&P is doing this, and I'd be very interested to see who decides to kind of take the reins on this. And then I'll go to Luda. Why do you think it's essential?
Okay, so I'm a GEer. You don't get if you don't measure. That's the slogan, right? If you don't have specific metrics of performance to get better, you're not going to get better. And it will become, Luda says, but I do believe it will become verticalized industry by industry. So S&P is putting a stake in the ground for financial. And they are using, it's a very specific 600 questions, 3 areas of quantification of what they want to see for themselves. I applaud them that they are putting it out as potentially becoming a standard. So, and we have associations in all the industries, right? Most of the industries that would, if they had resources, would do the same thing, right? And slowly they will, or somebody will take a lead like S&P did in this case. What we'll see is people will start using in the banking industry, and it will become better and better, and it will give them confidence to use it more. So I feel it's essential movement in the industry to put that type of a benchmark. And it started with financials, where AI has been used for some time. So that's the right place to use it. I really think that this is critically important. Essential.
Oh, all right. Amanda, Adam, where'd you fall on this one?
No, I'll jump in. Sure. I think it's important. I think I could be swayed towards essential. I was thinking it's just focused on one industry, so it's not really like wide enough to cover our entire audience. But to Luda's point, it's a trend that's a really positive trend that we want to drive awareness of, which is industry specific benchmarks. I also think it's important to note 2 things in that chart right there. One is everything we've been hearing lately is GPT-4 has been dethroned. Claude 3 Opus is the new leader in all the benchmarks. And you can see here, when you get into the industry specific rather than some general benchmark, that's not the case. So I think it's important, potentially, as Luda said, essential to emphasize that. I think it's also really interesting that they call out GPT-4 Turbo individually from GPT-4 and are acknowledging that there is a new model out. It's the one that we just covered in the news the other day as being accessed first through the Copilot M365 that was being rolled out, is that GPT-4 Turbo. And I think a lot of people haven't gotten the memo yet that there really is a new higher performance model from OpenAI on the market now, above and beyond GPT-4. So for quite a few reasons, above and beyond just the benchmark itself, I think I could be swayed that this is essential reading.
Yeah, we don't know the details of the questions. I didn't have time to go and try to find what's in these 3 areas. What are the questions, if they share that? But I think it is important. It's a well thought through metric, and it's first one. But I'm sure it will become a standard, or will become a base of a real metric.
All right, we're gonna. I think we're going to go with important on this one. We'll say it's an essential trend to watch. This is an important article in itself because it's really just one industry. About
right, but we have to keep an eye on the springtime, Luda. Living large here, essential. Ooh.
That's right. Okay, we have one here that I doubt anyone's going to argue for essential for. Tell us about this one, Ankash.
Yep. So the next one is from Google. So Google is using AI to come up with search results in a UK trial.
Okay, so yep, they basically expanded what they been trialing in the US for a while to the UK. Adam, did this make you feel warm and fuzzy and important or essential, or are you squarely on optional here?
I considered this optional. To be clear, though, it was already available through Google Labs in the US, so it's not something that was like rolled out and people who are using Google search in the US were already being exposed to this. I think it's optional news. I think it is interesting. The article conveys a little bit of both sides. It expresses the concern around less traffic being driven to websites and fewer links and ads. Yet the person from Google said that it actually provided more links to a wider range of sources, which is sort of counterintuitive. It wasn't backed up in the article as well. Overall, there wasn't much to take away from it, in my opinion, other than, as we discussed the other day, about sort of the shifts in the advertising trends. It's something we're going to want to watch as it develops.
Any argument against that?
Optional.
Optional.
I agree. We will move on. What's next?
Okay, so the next one is from a startup called SEMA.ai. So they have secured $70 million funding to introduce a multimodal Gen AI chip. They already have a chip in play, which they use for vision models.
All right, and this is a very complete chip, right? It's got everything on it, memory, etc. Amanda, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so for me, I put this one as optional. I mean, a couple things in there. They're focusing on edge. The multimodal processing could be interesting. Text, images, audio, that whole, 9 yards. Positioning against NVIDIA, of course, since they're in the chip market. But that's pretty much it. I mean, there was, to me, marketing in there, and they even discussed talking about like strategic growth and things like that. So for me, this one was optional.
Yeah, it's a big amount of funding, though. I mean, chips are the new dollar, right? And VCs, it's not been a strong year and a half or so for VC funding in general, but they seem more than willing to throw it at chips. Anybody else?
But it is an extension of B. So the valuation, B round, so the valuation did not go up, and it was on the 2022 level. After this round, they will get 270 million. So this is not rosy underneath. But what they're banking on, I think, is that NVIDIA will buy them, because NVIDIA is less on the edge, right? And they don't have the software. These guys have the software, no coding software, to go with their chip. So this potentially has an ability to expand what NVIDIA has to offer to the edge. So still optional, I agree, but just to note.
Good insight there, though. Any other thoughts on this before?
I love their name. I mean, the whole idea, of SEMA, and I believe it's like tradition in Buddhism and Hinduism about the boundary. There's the boundary of the location of the temple, or the boundary of the spirit between. And it's kind of cool when you talk about edge computing company that's named that. So I love the name.
All right, we'll give them a gold star for that, but we'll still go with optional. What do we have next?
Okay, so the last one is talking about Hugging Face AWS and how Wiz has uncovered some security flaws in Hugging Face.
Yeah, I made the argument to add this one last minute. I actually originally saw this story in the information, which frankly is a better version of this story if folks have access to that publication, which I'm a big fan of. But basically, Wiz is a cloud security firm out of Israel, and they have found this security flaw where basically they uploaded a malicious large language model to Hugging Face, and they were able to gain access to the private models and data of folks that are using it. Now it's patched. They've let Hugging Face know about this, but I thought this was an important alert to or reminder to the AI leader that's using basically any provider of models, right? To make sure that they're asking the right questions, because here, although I'm sure it's partitioned in some way, they have the customer data and their models that they're building are all on the same server, and that's what enabled this to happen. So first of all, good to know that if you're tapping Hugging Face for your needs, and a question to ask, right, when you're going to any provider. So I thought this one, I would call it important. It's a short read and it's a good reminder. That was my take. I know Adam was vehemently arguing against me, so you can give your side here if you'd like, and others, what did you think?
You should be reading the back channel. That's what I think. As I said, I've been reading more about it, and I agree that it's important to be aware of the risks when you start thinking about AI as a service. Isn't just like Hugging Face that's front-ending all these models. It's Google's cloud. It's Azure AI. It's AWS AI. Basically, I mean, Azure AI doesn't just work with OpenAI. They have Lama models. They have Mixtral models, and any place where there's multiple models like that being hosted, it's important to make sure that, as you said, they're asking those questions and that they are segmenting properly and using proper security. For what it's worth, the thing it sounds like that was most causing most of the vulnerabilities was places where PyTorch was used as part of the model. So that's just something, if people are looking or investigating, to keep an eye out for. That seems to be the place that was causing the most vulnerability in terms of these kinds of injections.
But look, guys, we can put it as important. I would vote optional for the following reasons. People are looking for vulnerabilities, which is wonderful. They found another one which has been patched. But in general, you don't even know which questions to ask. You say, have you done the red team? Have you looked at this and this and this? If you're a leader, right, you about to use these LLMs, and the answer is yes, 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 right? So you've done all you can, right? But there will be these vulnerabilities as we progress, and until they mature, like PyTorch will get fixed, right? So it's just somewhat frustrating, I think, for the leader. You either take a risk and go, or don't and wait. It's okay. What are we going? It's important, right? We know that, but what are you going to do?
All right. Well, if no one else comes down on my side, I'm always willing to go to the majority.
No, I'm up for option for important. I think it's a good reminder.
Reminders are good.
All right. Well, we'll just note it as a reminder, not as a critical red siren alert. All right. How did we end up, Pankaj? Okay, we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4 importance. We've got the new R+ model, the inexpensively built model from our friends at MIT and others. We want to start seeing more benchmarks, so we're encouraging everyone to kind of look at that one. And we just discussed our reminder about the security flaws. As Luda said, you're kind of going to take the risk and go from there. So, John, do you happen to know who our Learning Lab guest is Monday? Is it?
Actually, I do. It is Mamoon Yunus, the CEO founder of Forum Systems. He's going to talk about his Quantum Gears products. A very interesting set of new GPT models in security, benefits administration, and contracting that they've done in a very complex area. So I think folks will find it really interesting. They're strong upstart contender in an incredibly important area.
Yeah, and I will say I've talked to Mamoon a few times. Very well spoken, explains everything. So crystal clear, really smart guy. Been in the space for a long time. So totally encourage people to join. That's Monday, 7 p.m. you can access the link through any of our social channels.
Yes,
okay.
7 p.m. Eastern time, Eastern US.
Correct. Thank you. All right. With that, we will depart for the week, and we will see everybody on Monday. Have an incredible weekend and happy Gen AI news reading.